That's what I was not seeing. Hello, 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 and good morning to each and every one of you all. Welcome back to this channel and welcome back to this series of business prospects and possibilities. I've already taught on two business functionings as to how to be a beginning YouTuber in order to turn it into the possibility of being a filmographer. What we do is we use YouTube as a teaching tool as to how to edit, how to process, and how to wait for timeline existence in order to make sure that our films are able to be produced for the types of programmings that we request and we want the programmings to be produced for. So, once again, let me introduce myself. In music, I am Sierra Challenger. However, my name in real life and on my government identification is Cherie Stewart. I am a professor in the film industry now. I was a student when I began in 2012. I began studying in 2012, starting with the hair profession, and then I went to clothing, and then I went to makeup, and now I am in the field of business in many different areas. So I am now a full-fledged filmographer, and with that, you need to know how to edit. You need you need to know how to do what's called a screen grab, which is kind of like a YouTube thumbnail, but it's not really a YouTube thumbnail. Because a YouTube thumbnail is just a much smaller form of a screen grab. Um, it's more extensive. A screen grab is kind of like poster advertising. It's a poster advertising situation, but you need to know how to fit everything in a very small border, however, making it look as though you use the entire border in order to be able to screen grab. So that's what a screen grab is, only having a small space to work with, yet making it look as though you use the entire space. That is what is described as a background backdrop photo. So if you add a background backdrop photo or one that's provided to help you in the learning process, and then you add your photos on top, it allows for you to make it seem as though you've used the entire space when you've only used a background photo in order to cover the elements that's not being used. So that's where I'm studying right now as a filmographer and a editor, learning to do a screen grab. I studied starting with YouTube thumbnails, Instagram photos, and I've been doing all of those on my own since about 2018. I started filmography, actually filming in 2016. Um, and I started posting flat photos in 2017, studying the use of a flat still photo in order to promote in 2017. And yeah, I'm just studying and physically applying the learning techniques of a screen grab. So I'm always doing something, I'm always learning something new, and I'm always keeping busy in order to make sure that all of my editing can definitely be brought back to me in order to say that I did all the work. I did all the work. So, with that being said, let's get into this continuing series. I started this series on the Fenty Beauty page, And now I'm continuing this series on this page. I have a couple videos on this page in regards to business prospects and possibilities. This is a series for beginners in flat stills as to how to sell without actually even promoting. That's pretty much what this series is in regarding selling without promoting. So yeah, it's a lot to understand as to how to sell without promoting the actual product that you're actually selling. That's basically what it is. You don't have the product to promote. How are you going to sell it? How are you going to sell it and make the people want it, even when the product is not there in physical existence yet? That's what this series is in regards. So, for beginners, there are two options that you can use in order to garner information. You can use the borrowing aspect or the lending options. Now you're all going to argue with me that borrowing and lending are the same. Actually, they are not. They're not. Borrowing is you will always owe someone because you always have to return the product that you borrowed. Lending means that you technically you do own the product, but it's kind of like a credit card. You got to pay the bill after you have bought the product in order for it to be a lending prospect. So borrowing and lending are absolutely two different options. They sound the same, but they do look very, very different. A credit card is kind of like a cash option where you pay with cash and then you pay a third party with cash in order to be able to have that easy financial payment of owning the product a lot faster than what you would already own. But you have to be careful with the lending prospects too, because the percentage on the lending prospects will can actually damage your business. The percentage on a lending prospect such as a credit card can and will damage your business, especially if you do not pay what was loaned to you on time in order to purchase the product that you are well selling, yet you do not own the product pretty much. You're just you so if you don't with the lending option, if you don't pay the bills on time, you're putting your business a lot farther behind than where it should pretty much be. So that's borrowing and lending criteria. So if you've had a business that's lasted more than 3 to 5 years, you are in a streamline to now loan. And that's if you've paid attention, especially if you've borrowed and you no longer own anything in either the borrowing or the lending, but it's harder to not owe anything in the borrowing. It's a lot easier in the lending opportunity to not owe anything. It's a lot easier. Why is it a lot easier to not own anything? It's a lot easier because number one, you're paying your bills on time. Number two, you have a time limit in the lending criteria in which to carry that credit card in order to allow you to build your business in a much quicker aspect. And one of the things that can get a lot of beginning business in trouble is not buying the right products that they've requested the credit card option for, which is the lending option. You have to stick with the program in order to keep the criteria. And the criteria for most credit card programs is 3 to 5 years lending prospects. So when you see an expiry date on a credit card, it means that your lending period has ended on that credit card, meaning that even if you still have any type of credit on that credit card, it now belongs to the credit company after the expiry date if you haven't renewed your lending period on that credit card. So you have 3 to 5 years on a credit card lending prospect in order to build before your credit expires in the lending option. With the borrowing option, you always have to return, 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 return. With the lending options, yes, you own it because you paid the bill. However, once that 3 to 5 year lending option has ended, you need to start learning how to use cash, and then you're going to need to start learning how to wait now. You're going to have to start learning how to wait. Here's the other thing with the lending prospect. With the lending prospect, you pretty much have to, you cannot advertise with the lending prospect. You cannot advertise with, so anything that you bought with the lending prospect, you cannot advertise it. You have to wait until the lending time has come to a completion before you can actually sell the product. That's the other stipulation with a lending option. You have to wait until the lending time is over, which is 3 to 5 years based off of how long you said you would be using the lending option for those that have credit cards. In order to own that product, which is why I say stay away from purchasing food with credit cards. Unless you have another business streamline that can vouch for you as to why you purchased the food, meaning you've opened a restaurant. You've opened a restaurant, so you're using the credit card in order to purchase the food, in order to help streamline growth, which means that you have sales in other possibilities out there that can bring back down your credit score in that percentile in the lending prospect. So I've done it not the borrowing way, not the borrowing way, but I have done it the IOU way, which is okay. The IOU way is okay. The IOU way is okay. However, you must return what you IOU borrowed in the form of a cash payment. You must return the IOU borrowed payment in the form of a cash payment, or you must return the product back to the person. And I have used that as well. I have used the IOU borrowed option, and I've paid the person back in cash for the product. So now the product belongs to me because I paid for the time. Not only did I pay for the time in using the product in the borrowing option, I now own the full product because I've been able to test the product. I've been able to size the product. And with the IOU and the borrowed, you have to use it in exactly the area that you're supposed to use it for. With the lending possibilities, you can't not use the product at all until after the lending period is up. So that's pretty much a starter for businesses. Know your options, know your choices, know your limitations. Know your options, know your choices, know your limitations. Know when to borrow, know when to use the IOU option in the borrowing aspect, and know when to understand the lending possibilities as well. Know when to understand the lending possibilities. Now, you are out of both options because you've used up both options. All right, what's the next step? Cash for ownership. Cash for ownership. So you use cash in order to own the product. But here's the thing, do you really own the product? Do you really own the product? Underneath it all, with all that cash, do you own the product? Have you, here's how to ask yourself if you really own the product. Have you paid your mortgage on time? Because now the mortgage company can confiscate your items in your home, even though you've paid for the items in cash. But because you haven't paid the mortgage company on time, the items in the home belong to the mortgage company. So do you own the products even though you purchased them in cash? Not really, no. You don't. Pay your mortgage, pay your light bill, pay your water bill. Because those billing companies can now come and take from you what you have because you owe them financial cash. So what you have doesn't really belong to you until you no longer owe a mortgage to the mortgage company to the house that you are, well, technically borrowing. It's not yours until the mortgage payment is up. It's the house is not yours. The house still belongs to the mortgage company. So until, if you bought a house for 195,000, if you bought a house for 195,000 and you still have $50,000 owed after paying, and you don't quite own the house yet because you still owe that 50,000, which means the things in the home are not yours either. You may have bought it. However, you bought it on a borrowing aspect to say that the mortgage company is allowing you to become comfortable until a problem arises where you cannot pay the mortgage anymore. And honestly, a lot of mortgage companies are literally living off of that. People not being able to pay their mortgage because, let me tell you, the mortgage companies, they'll sell it to you, but they've checked you out first to know whether or not you've been able to make your payments in the past before. And if you've missed payments in the past before, they're just pushing you to not be able to make the full payment in order to send in the insurance bureau to say, hey, what's up? So if you haven't made a full payment in the past before to say that you own the house, you don't own the house, because even after you've paid the mortgage to that house, you gotta now, because the mortgage company is still watching you, right? You gotta now look back at the bills that you haven't paid in the past. And the mortgage company is still gonna look at that and say, we can still take the house away from you. We can still take the items in the home away from you because you haven't paid your bills back in the past that you owe. So be careful. Be very careful with the borrowing aspect to beginners as well as the lending aspect. You will always owe somebody, especially if your credit is not clear, meaning that you owe no payments from the past. You own nothing from the past where the mortgage company or a legal analyst can come in and step in and say, hey, that's mine because you owe money now. That's mine because you owe money. You owe money. You haven't made that payment and you need to make that payment. I have third-party payers that help me to pay my bills. And yes, that's another thing. You can have third-party payers. You can have third-party payers that help you to pay your bills. However, they will always be a guarantor signed deal with the third-party payer, meaning that the third-party payer now owns you because they've had to help you make some payments. They've had to help you make some payments in order to make sure that you don't get in debt. And the reason why they help you make that payment is because you have good possibilities and good prospects in being able to sell them. And I've used all three ways. I have used the borrowing aspect, the lending aspect, and the third party aspect. Which one do I prefer? Sometimes the third party aspect can be a pain in the ass. The third party bill payment option is a pain in the ass. Trust me, it's not all that pretty on this side of the snow where it is snowing right now. It's not all that pretty. There's some snakes in the grass, there's some rats in the house. There's some rats in the house. The third party payers, they turn on your heat for you. You can't touch the heater. The third party payers touch the heater, but they turn it on to make sure you're warm because you're a human being. They make sure you have hot water, but they're the third party payer because they're paying the bill to make sure you have hot water. And yeah. So which one of those payment options do I prefer? None, but I need help in order to get myself together, so I accept the help from the third party option. I accept the help even though it's a pain in the behind to work with the third party option. It's actually even better than the first two because the third party option owns the stuff because they pay the bill to the stuff. And I look like I live freely, but I got rules to adhere to because of the third party payment option. I got rules to adhere to. And they're not as thick as you all seem them to be. Mine's just cook, clean, and don't say nothing unless we ask you to. And as you can see, they've all been asking me to say a lot because I'm speaking. I'm speaking, and it's helping me to grow another option. It's helping me now to become that third party payer. It's helping me to become that third party payer. And that's how you jump ahead and you get to ownership. It now means I owe absolutely nothing. All my bills have been paid up, even to my third party payers, but I still have respect for my third party payers because I'm still calling them in to help me with my team members to make sure that my team members stay on track. Anyways, with that being said, that is it for the video. I had a lot of notes for the beginning aspect, but I didn't even follow the notes. I spoke from right here with a lot of questions that all of you had based off of what's how to begin a business and how to streamline a business for growth. And that's part of the reason why the pay is usually less is because we're using the borrowing, the lending, or the third party payer aspect in order to get our bills paid. So don't fret, you'll be good and stay on track. Anyways, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. That is it for this video. Please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to this video for more information like this one. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.